it's been kind of slowly getting worse over time. My guess is it's coming from the front of the valve cover gasket right here. You can see it kind of dripping down. It's wet right there, and it's just gotten all over the headers, and it smokes a bit over time when I'm running it hard, and then oil is just kind of soaked most of the front of the engine, and it's getting down here as well. So I'm going to do my best to either replace the gasket, or I don't know if y'all can see, but this fan is definitely not OEM, and it's rubbing on the valve cover, and so I'm wondering if it kind of rubbed a hole in it or something. You can see it's smoking right now too. Thing to note, there's two of these little rubber portions that I found on forums that sometimes can leak after like a valve adjustment or whatever. But I don't think that's what's leaking. And here are the valves, the new gaskets, if I end up using them all. These are for the bolts, and then these two go in the middle on the outside. First things first is taking off all the fairings. Got off the fairings, just to get a better look at everything. The thing with this bike, Craigslist, lots of different things like the fan that's not stock, the coolant reservoir that's not OEM at all, and I'm wondering if the radiator isn't stock as well. I'm not sure, it's hard to tell, but you can kind of see a better look at all the oil. It's just seeping down all over the undercarriage. This excess oil before I get headlong into it, start it back up and see if I can actually see where it's coming from and dripping. What I'll do is I'll take off the upper bolts on the radiator and then try and remove that cooling fan. And then once I start it, see if it's leaking from anywhere in there. So move both of these bolts on either side. It's gonna be a little difficult to get to the other one, on the other side. But yeah, you can see right there that it's kind of melted into the valve cover, maybe just from all the vibration and stuff. So I'm guessing that's perhaps where the majority or all of the leak is coming from. Alright. Yeah. You can kind of see it right there. That might be where the leak is coming from. Who knows? The fan is not even that. It plugs into this, which is not stock at all. But now that we have all this room, we're gonna go ahead and wipe down everything over here. I don't think it's coming from down under here, but better safe than sorry and see. You know, it could be more than one, who knows. I doubt it, being Suzuki. My thought is that, you know, with all the crap whoever previously owned did to this bike, it's just, you know, not set up how it's supposed to be, and thus there's an issue. You can see where the fan was rubbing up against the the valve cover right there and how it just kind of melted away a bit. So I'm wondering if there's a leak there. So right there, that's probably our primary issue. I would assume this might be aluminum, and that's why it melted in the first place. And all the smoke is just coming from the headers from oil from before. So it's definitely leaking from that spot. But what do you do from here, you know? Alright, so I think it's best if I go ahead and take off that cover. I ran it for a while, and I think that's the only place that's leaking. And I'm gonna have to pull it off to repair it. See what I can do with that aluminum. So take off the gas tank. It's just this one screw right here. And then just the easy disconnect fuel lines. This one as well. You just push that down, pop it out. And then the two drain hoses that go down through the engine. You can either pull it out or just, you know, pull them up from the engine. And then next we're gonna take off the airbox, wiggle these out. I already loosened them. So just kind of the rectifier, I believe, is in here. That's what all these nasty wires are for, which that one is sort of melting, of course. Back. Pulled the coils out. The can't remember the name of that. Comes out of these two right here. Just pull the coils out and unplug all these wires. Kind of push them off to the sides so you've got better access. It's looking like no matter what I might have to take these out, so we'll just have to see. Not too bad. Got all of them out. Toughest one to get to is this one right here. If you have like a wrench that extends, you're not going to be able to get to it. But this, got a set of these metric at Harbor Freight for $7. Hella cheap. I just reached down here and pulled this, and it comes right off. Now, the engine is pretty hot right now, so maybe the best thing to do is to actually get it warm before you try this. That way it just comes right off. So as it turns out, pulled off the cover, and I attempted to try and weld it a bit, and that did not work out at all. I just tried to very carefully arc weld it just a bit, and I believe this is made out of magnesium, which is even worse than trying to do aluminum. And this is very thin, so it did not work out very well. It actually made the hole a little bit bigger, even though I was very careful within like a half second that I tried. So I ended up just getting some JB Weld. The hole was only about that big, and this doesn't hold a lot of pressure, so I'm thinking that should work just fine. Worst case scenario, I have to replace this, just get one off eBay for $40. But yeah, generally in this, I had noticed this little slip right here sticking out on the front of the engine. That's actually built in. That's not a fault in the gasket whatsoever. So I just cleaned this off real good, and then wiped down the edges of the around where the gasket's going to go, and then I'll have some of this gasket maker that I'll put around these edges to make sure that doesn't leak or anything, and then I'll probably reuse this gasket as well as the ones for the bolt, because I don't think those were leaking at all, which I'm not surprised. I honestly didn't think they should be leaking unless one was damaged or missing or something. So I'll probably just do all that. and not have to use these, hopefully return them, get my money back. But we'll see. We'll see if this JB Weld holds. This stuff sits for 4 hours, quick one. So I'm waiting 4 hours, and then after 3.5 hours, I'll probably start putting stuff back on and then fire it up eventually and see if everything holds. Putting back on this gasket, waiting for the JB Weld to dry. On the user manual it says to put a bit of gasket maker around these portions before you put it back on. So I'm going to put this back on and then wait another hour for that to dry and then put all this back on. So I got the cover back on, kind of slid it up in front of the radiator and pulled it up this way. And just make sure all of this seats, the seal seats flush into it. Make sure and double check all the way around. There's no lip that's supposed to go into the top part that gets caught up underneath or sticks out a bit. Remember, these two things right here are like that. They're made like that. There's little lips right here, at least on my gasket. There's little lips on either side right there, and then under here they're supposed to be like that, so that's not like a piece sticking out. And then just, you know, snug these down all by hand. And they say on the gasket maker to snug it by hand and then let it dry for about an hour, which I need to let the JB Weld on the valve cover dry anyway for another hour. So I'm just going to snug these down lightly and then let it all dry. Should be good to go. Put the everything back on. So far, no leak. It's smoking because of all the oil that was on the headers before. Yeah, no leak all the way around. And that spot I JB welded is holding pretty good. I'm gonna wait until it gets full temperature and then I'll see what happens.